So hello everyone, welcome to this video. I am about to make a comment on a GitHub issue that will automatically trigger a workflow for an agent in the background in an isolated environment to investigate, fix, and then again fix any issues that it finds directly through a GitHub comment. This is my actual workflow and what I use daily. I've had a lot of people ask me how it works, so today we're giving you a little bit of a sneak peek. Today we're setting up this in the shards repo. Shards is the application we have been building in this series for the Kiro hackathon. We'll get into how shards work a little bit later. The Archon core works with the workflow engine. It's basically a set series of prompts that we can predefine and configure however we want to and in whichever order we want to. It's all orchestrated automatically, and it also has isolation. So whenever I make a comment on a GitHub issue, it automatically creates an isolation environment for me. It launches my coding agent for me, and it runs the workflow commands for me. We can use worktrees, and we can use GitHub as a provider. We can use Slack, Discord, and Telegram. And for the AI SDKs, we can today use Codex or Claude Code. This is the new Archon. So if you have been following Cole Medin and what has been happening with Archon, this is very soon going to be released to Archon. So I hope within a couple of days, you're going to be able to use this yourself as well. But essentially, it spins up the remote agent on the remote servers, running everything in the background so we can continue working in our main terminal windows or in our shards, however we want to, without being affected with what's going on in our open issues. So we're going to be able to run the same workflows as we've been running previous days in 8 different terminals, but instead doing it directly in GitHub without having to worry about a bunch of terminal windows. But yeah, just a quick note before we dig into it. We are in the middle of the Kiro hackathon. There's a $17K prize pool. You will get 2,000 free Kiro credits if you sign up. So you still have a week to build. Also, I am not affiliated with Kiro in any way, so everything I say and review about Kiro here is my own thoughts. And with that said, if you find this useful, please consider liking and subscribing. It will really help me out. And if you also want to see more about my workflow and how I build Archon using Archon, please subscribe and follow along because there's going to be a lot more content about Archon and how Archon works in the future in this channel. So today we're starting here in shards, and I'm going to be setting up a webhook essentially in this repo so that we can run our review workflow directly from GitHub instead of having to invoke agents in the new terminal window. So I'm going to set that up. Basically what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to the settings and the webhooks, and I'm going to add my ngrok webhook here. So I'm going to do that off camera for a second, and I'll get back to you when I'm done. So the webhook is successfully created. Now we have here 5 issues. So if you look at yesterday's video, we also ran a lot of issue fixing in parallel, but we did that in separate Kiro terminals. Now today, what we're going to do instead, we're just going to do this directly from GitHub. So essentially what I have here is my remote coding agent. For those of you who follow also Cole Medin on YouTube and the Dynamous community, you will know about this. This is essentially going to become the new Archon. So we're doing a lot of stuff with Archon here. And basically, I have the server running. I'm going to restart it. So we'll load in the new webhook. And this basically runs on the Claude Code SDK and the Codex SDK. And I can here define workflows. So I basically define a workflow, which model I want to use. And here you can see the commands that I want to run. So I'm running these here sequentially, and then I'm running these in parallel. So these are essentially sub-agents being spawned in parallel in a deterministic way. Then I'm also running synthesize and review and an autofix. So this autofix is essentially just writing fixes for the critical issues that the review finds. So basically doing a bunch of different steps here in a workflow that I have predetermined when I make a comment, a specific comment on a GitHub issue. So we'll see this in action in a minute. But yeah, basically I just define workflows as YAML files in my .archon folder. I have my commands here, so these are the ones that I can chain together. These are essentially just Claude Code commands with the only thing that needs to be in there. They need to save an artifact because those artifacts are being passed as context. between these steps. Okay, I'm going to go over this in detail in another video. A lot of this to come soon. This is also going to become public in the new Archon directory very, very soon. So it's going to be an open source directory. So all of you will have access to this and be able to use it very, very soon. Okay, but let's move that over to my other screen. Let's open up our GitHub again, and let's just test if it's working. So I'm going to run it on this P1 issue, and I'm just going to say at Archon, please investigate and fix this issue. Let's see if it triggers. Okay, so the webhook is not working. Right away, let me just test it a little bit. Okay, here we go. I have fixed it. There was a couple of issues just with the webhook settings, so it works now. So we should be able now to trigger the workflow. I'm just going to check so that our it works. Okay, we should be able to do this again. I'm just going to comment. So the bot is actually running, but it's not running my workflow. So I have a bug here in my coding agent when I'm running it on target repos. So I need to fix that real quick. Okay, so I have addressed the issue. The issue was that actually my commands files were not copied over to my target repo. So at the moment, I can't see them in here, but they are in the clone that is actually running the commands. We are going to just take a look here. So this actually worked. If we look at this issue, I ran my workflow. It fell back to like the default workflow instead of using my pre-configured workflow. So it actually did the fix, created the PR. So we can see like the entire run here. And instead of using my workflow, it just used the default workflow and created a PR. So it has fixed the issue and created a PR. Okay, so if we run it again now, it's going to use our custom instructions. So that is good. I'm just going to actually do this on all of our issues here. Okay, now I have also cloned in my commands and my workflows into this repository. So now it's going to be much easier for us to visualize what is going on here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just open a new Kiro CLI. So let's just run the Kiro CLI trust all tools to launch the Kiro CLI. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to tell Kiro here, can you please list all of the open issues? Yeah. So one of them already has a PR, so we don't have to do anything to that. But all of the other issues, so issue 43, issue 31, 30, and issue number 2, I'd like you to comment on all of those issues exactly this. So I'm just going to write here at please investigate and fix this issue. And that's going to trigger our workflow on all of these. So we're just going to have basically Kiro CLI handle all of this. This is also a skill. So when you use this with Claude Code, you don't have to be so specific. You can just tell Claude Code to please go and comment on these issues to run Archon, essentially. And it's going to run there and it's going to make a comment and then it's going to start triggering these workflows. So let's take a look. Let's just open one of them and just make sure that the workflow has triggered. And you can see here, now it's using the correct workflow. So it's now running our Archon workflow fix GitHub issue. So it's using the investigate prompt, which is this investigate issue, very similar to the prompt we have inside of Kiro. And it's using, after that, the implement issue. So yeah, first investigate issue, then implement issue is going to create all the artifacts inside of here. And it's also going to push artifacts up to issue comments. So yeah, all of those, now we are essentially running already 4 agents in parallel. And all of these agents are automatically orchestrated into their own work trees. So yeah, I'm going to show you a little bit about how that all works. So here we can see a little bit of an architecture diagram. So currently there is no dashboard and there is no visual workflow builder, but that is coming very, very soon. Basically like an N8N style builder where you can visualize the workflows. Currently we have a CLI as well, so you can actually trigger all of these workflows through a CLI. But what we're using right now is the API server. So it's a very light Hono API server that we use to just call the webhook. And also we can run workflows. We have a core that is the workflow engine, is the orchestrator, and it also has a database. And it also has the isolation orchestrator. And this isolation orchestrator is what is currently being used to orchestrate the work trees. So whenever we comment and at Archon on an issue, that issue gets an isolation by the orchestrator. And right now that is a work tree. In the future, it will be maybe Docker or clouds here as well. So we can have like better sandboxing, better isolation. But at the moment, that is like all automatically handled. So all you need to do is comment on an issue. The workflow that you want to invoke runs. You can also define your own workflows. You can do whatever you want. It's very configurable. And once you trigger that, it runs the entire workflow on that issue. If PR is created from that issue, the orchestrator handles that, and actually the worktree follows to the PR. So if you continue commenting on that PR, you actually continue working on the same worktree. So it's very, very autonomous. And if you ask me, the user experience is very, very effortless when you start using it through the GitHub adapter. You can also use it through other adapters. So essentially a little bit more here, we have more of these adapters. So at the moment we support Slack, GitHub, Telegram, and Discord. So you can essentially trigger your workflows from all of those platforms. So you can trigger on the go, on Slack or Telegram. Also, every thread you use on Discord and on Slack automatically also gets isolation. So they all run on individual work trees. And yeah, isolation provider is right now worktree. And the SDK clients, currently we can use either Codex CLI, meaning the Codex CLI SDK, or the Claude Code SDK. So this is all built on top of those SDKs. And we might support other SDKs in the future. I'm looking into AMP SDK at the moment to integrate that. But yeah, we'll get to that later. But yeah, here is a little bit of an overview over that. I'll go more into depth about how this works, guiding how to set it up, showing some more workflows, how to build workflows and so on future videos on this channel. So if you want to see more about Archon, how Archon was built, maybe even how I use Archon to build Archon, stay tuned and like and subscribe, because there will be a lot more content related to Archon and the new Archon on this channel. But yeah, we can see here that these guys are starting to also push up things here, and things should start being fixed. And once all of these are fixed, we're also going to start a review workflow on the pull requests. But yeah, I'm going to let this run. In the meanwhile, what I really want to start doing today is I'm going to clear, yes, and inside of our, I'm just going to open up our IDE again because I don't remember what the file name was. We do have here now a plan file somewhere. I think it's in here. Nope, maybe in here. Yeah, that's the one. GPUI native terminal UI plan. Okay, that's the one I thought it was. So we're going to use this one. And what we're going to do, we are going to use this instance here. We're going to clear it out again. I'm going to say at PRD, I think we have. No, still never remember these in my head. Create PRD, I think is this one. Yeah, so at PRD, create PRD. Okay. Thinking. Okay, that's stupid. Okay, let's see. So we should get the file name based on the feature here that we're planning out. So I want you to study this file. And what we want to do, I want you to ask me any unanswered questions in that file. And we are going to start planning out here this in phases. So we want to create a PRD that outlines the phases, and we want to have highest impact phases first, and of course in a logical dependency order as well. But we want to keep the phases not too small, but quite large enough to get done within a day or two of work. And each phase should be focused on solving one particular problem. So let's plan this out properly. So now it's going to start. I don't think it's going to ask me a lot of questions because a lot of the answers are already in that file. So if you want to read that file, it is in the repo. It was called gpui native terminal UI plan. So it's basically ideation and research document. Is not really a plan at that point. It's something that I did together with Claude through my phone in the weekend when I had some ideas around this. And yeah, let's just take a look here. So the P2I foundation first. So this basically gives us our own terminal So we don't actually spawn additional terminals, we spawn our own terminal, but this is only for the UI. We are still going to have the separate CLI, so we can still do everything through the CLI, like spawn separate terminals. But yeah, so it's important that we keep a clear separation here and that we keep the CLI and the core packages as well. So the core package and the CLI should still, of course, launch terminals not related to our GPUI, and the GPUI should be built upon on top of the core, separate from the CLI, where we have more control and we build excellent UX for the user to spawn terminals, to track sessions, and or track shards, swap between shards, and so on. But yeah, I think that the faces look great, and also should we think about any type of branding and colors right now, or should we just start building out the UI and then add like themes and colors and stuff later? Also, I have never used gpui, so I don't actually know here what is the best practices and what is the kind of like best approaches. I'm going to lean a lot on the coding agent to like ask questions and help me understand and work through problems. So let's see. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Are we ready to create the PRD, or do you have any more questions? Okay, so now the PRD is being created. Let's go back to our GitHub. I think that all of our issues should now have pull requests. Yeah, so we now have, okay, please use the GitHub CLI to check what happened with the worktree we have related to issue 30. It seems like things happened there, but it was never pushed. Okay. So yeah, okay, that's what happened. I see. So the agent actually did correct here, investigated the issue, saw that it was actually not needed and it was already implemented. So basically closed the issue without deleting the branch. So I'm just going to say, okay, please then delete that branch and clean up the work tree that was related to it as well. Okay, awesome. So that actually worked. I don't know why it's pushing. Yeah, so the kiro CLI is doing a lot of weird shit that I wouldn't have, I don't think Claude Code would do. So, but yeah, it's fine. Let's just leave it like that for now. We are going to now say to this guy again. So we're just going to say, please now look at all open PRs. You can just list them and their numbers. And here we have now PRD. It was very quick in implementing this. It didn't do a lot of research. I don't have the highest trust in this PRD and this plan. So I kind of would want to go through it and maybe even use Claude Code to kind of validate it a little bit using my Claude Code commands here, because I don't want to start building this with a flawed plan. But yeah, it should be simple enough. We're not going that deep into this in this plan, so at least phase one should be simple enough, but I just want to make sure that we're doing things correctly. So what we're going to do here, I want you to add a comment to all of these 4 PRs. The comment I want you to add is this. So again, we're going to use the remote coding agent. We're going to do please do a compare review of this PR. And that's it. So this is again going to trigger my remote agent on all of these issues. So at the moment, I'm using this without the skill. That's why I have to be so specific on what to comment. If I used it together with my Claude Code skill for this, I would just tell it what to do, and it would be very, very autonomous. But let's check just so that the workflow is triggered. We can go in and do it here. So yeah, we can see here that reusing the same work tree. So as I told you, it's reusing the same work tree from the issue. It's checking, is getting routed to the correct workflow, and then it's running these steps. So it's starting with step number 1. This is going to take a while, but it's running a comprehensive PR review, very, very similar to our Kiro workflow that we have created in previous videos. So take a look at the previous videos if you want to see exactly how that kind of works. You can also access all the prompts here, so you can see like how it's prompted, how it's orchestrated. Okay, so I think that this is our PRD here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at these. I don't think we need this guy anymore. I'm actually going to exit out. I'm going to clear it, and I'm going to run Claude Code, PRD, and I'm going to run it on this. I'm going to just say, can you please study these 2 documents, and I want you to validate the PRD that we have here based on the plan and actually do a little bit more research on the steps to make sure that the phases are logical and works. Yeah, so quite a vague prompt here. It's fine. Let's use this one as well. I'm gonna basically have it study these two files and ask me any additional clarifying question. The reason why I do this is because I do not have high trust for the Kiro CLI to do this, especially when I know that it's using auto mode. It's not using Opus. It's basically using Sonnet and or Haiku. And I know that it didn't do any planning. I know that when I do this with Claude Code, it's going to go into my code base and explore. It's going to do web search and make sure it gets the latest documentation, and it's going to do it thoroughly. So I have much, much higher trust in my Claude Code system than I have in the Kiro, unfortunately. So I'm going to just basically revalidate what Kiro did here before I actually start implementation, just to kind of make sure. So that's what I recommend you do here as well. Even if you're in this hackathon, you can try to do everything with Kiro, but if you have another workflow, usually you can basically just use that to validate that what you're doing with Kiro is also correct. If you usually use maybe ChatGPT or Claude on the desktop app or something like that, or maybe in Perplexity to do your plans, do that, do what you trust, and build trust with a tool until you are comfortable with it. That's what I would recommend in all of these cases. I'm just going to take a look at my workflows that are running. It's not finishing up, but I see in my logs that things are happening. So I can see that things are happening in all of these. Some of them are even done. It's 2 running still. And this one is, it failed. Okay, that's why that's not running. Strange. I think that should be there. PR review scope. It is there. Okay, that is strange. I'm gonna debug this later. It is, let's leave this. I'm gonna show more of this tomorrow once I set it up properly. So I think it's just a configuration issue because I have ran these, I don't know, on other projects for days. So it's just when you set it up on a new repo, there are a couple of hiccups that might happen. So I'm gonna do that properly after the recording, and I'm gonna rewrite the instruction so that to make sure that it is correct for when we release it later. I'm just going to check if it's the same issue on all of them, most likely, but no. So here it works, right? So it's worked for, okay, no, that's an issue. Let's take a look here. Okay, here it worked. Here it at least found that prompt, so it's on step 2. So this one works. This one also seems to work because it has a lot of comments. Yeah, so this one also works. So that's excellent. And so yeah, it's only for some reason, one of them failed. So there might be some kind of bug there or something that is a little bit flaky. So good to always surface those issues. Let's go back into Claude Code and see what's going on. Okay, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true around gpui. I know that they have Windows support now. So I do think that you are a bit wrong on the versions here. So please look into the GPY versions properly. And yeah, make sure that you update Alacrity also to latest version. You also make sure, like go and look, add the Tokyo dependency. What I actually want you to do, complete the research with filling the gap. When you're not sure, don't guess based on your in knowledge. Go out and actually look up the latest versions and the Windows support. I'm sure that it has Windows support because I read an article when it was released. And I want you to not actually fix the PRD that is there. I rather want you to write a new PRD from scratch that addresses everything. So don't worry about fixing the existing one, just write a new one. It's going to be easier for you. So this is also something I like to do. Instead of kind of like fixing something that is broken, I just wanted to start from scratch because otherwise we'll go in and diff edit a bunch of things. And yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. I'm just going to go here, GPUI version. Okay, anyways. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to delete the old PRD file here. One important distinction to make here is though, no. One important distinction to make here though is that, okay, it's actually, I know it's testing. My other agent that is running in a worktree is testing at the moment. So that's why it's trying to close my window here. I don't want it to do that, obviously. So I'm just gonna say here, one important distinction to make is that we still want to have the CLI as a separate thing and the UI as a separate thing, and the core should be powering both of these. But we still want to be able to, from the CLI, launch terminals that are not our gpui terminal. So for example, we want to be able to launch iTerm with the coding agents directly from the CLI, whereas we also want the UI where we can get a lot more control of on our own and build an excellent UX experience for the users where they can run multiple shards directly and manage that much more easily through our UI. So I just want to make sure that that is mentioned here so that we don't build too tight integration. I can see now that this should all be done. I'm going to check. So this is the one that started messing with my terminal. It has made all the fixes. There's some low priority issues. So I'm going to go through and read this later if there is some more fixes I want to add. So we have fixed the critical and high, but we still have a couple of medium and low issues. I'm not sure that if we want to fix that or not. So let's see. But yeah, I'll do that after the recording. I don't think that is too interesting content. You can go in and read the issue comments there if you want to. And let's see. Yeah, so here it's adding a little bit more. Perfect. Now also I want you to just make sure that the phases are good, because now we are going to start planning the phases in more detail after this. So just do a dependency check on the phases and maybe create a phase table as well. So this should now be in a pretty good state after this, and I'm going to read through it and I'm going to start implementing this tomorrow. So I think we should be ready. I'm going to read through it after recording as well, make sure it is all what I want. And tomorrow we should be good to start implementing the GPUI. So that should be pretty cool. And yeah, so what we did today, essentially we set up Archon, or the remote coding agent, on this repo. It allows us to run remote agents directly from GitHub by just commenting on the issue with integrated isolation. So we don't have to have hundreds of terminal windows open to run things in parallel. It all runs inside of GitHub, or it runs locally, but we orchestrate it through GitHub. We can have our agent orchestrated for us. There is a Claude skill we can use so that the agent knows exactly how to use that. There is actually also an Archon CLI, so we don't have to do it for GitHub, we can do it for the CLI as well. So the big idea I have here is that Archon and shards are going to work really, really well together. And we're basically going to be able to use shards for a lot of our local development where we need to have a lot of focus and our planning workflows. And we're going to be able to use Archon where we have high trust in our automations, and we're just going to be able to kick off background agents in isolation. So we're going to see in coming days here how this is going to play out. I have really high hopes for how this is going to work. I have some really cool ideas for how I want this to look like and how it should feel like. And also we are going to be releasing the new Archon within hopefully a few days. So then you should also be able to use Archon directly through whichever adapter you want, but basically run background agents with your own commands, your own workflows, and you can chain commands together essentially infinitely, and you can plug in human in the loop wherever you want to in those workflows. So you can basically make a stop, and there you can come in and do whatever adjustments you want. But it works extremely well for things that you have high trust for, high signal review flows, these kind of flows that we built yesterday when it comes to triaging issues, triaging merge, looking at merge conflicts and helping you decide how to handle that. Yeah, automatically committing, creating PRs, stuff like that, basic things. So there are a lot of things you can also automate with Archon that has nothing to do with engineering and programming, because you basically can just think of it as Claude Code, but as an 8N builder. And you can just have anything Claude Code can do. You can have it go web scrape, research for you, and you can basically just pipe in things together in a workflow. You can loop things, you can run things in parallel. So it basically has its own sub-agent solution, if you will, but you can also use, of course, Claude Code sub-agents, but you also can have more deterministic workflows with multiple context windows spawning in parallel. So yeah, it's really cool. I hope that you will check it out when we release it, and I hope this kind of piqued your interest into this and gave you a little bit of a sneak peek into my usual workflow. We didn't get too deep into it today, but in coming days, there's going to be more and more. We're getting into more and more parity with closer and closer to my normal workflow. If I get too annoyed by Kiro CLI, I might also just switch over to Claude Code here at some point for the remaining of this build, because I think it's going a little bit too slow at the moment, and we don't have that much time left. So I want to kind of finish the application as well within the hackathon time. But yeah, I will continue building tomorrow. So I hope I will see you then.